I admire you that you find the drive to always do everything right, to keep doing what you do, and to stand for your own values. So that was actually a sentence that one of my colleagues just said to me about an hour and a half ago when I completed a training about project management. This is something that person would never have said if I would have not completed Rotary Youth Exchange. So, like I said, my name is Koen Olsthoorn, and in the next half hour or so, I would like to take you on a journey that I've been through over the year 2011, 2012, but also very importantly from the time afterwards. So during this presentation, I would like to share with you a bit more about myself, about my background and the experiences I've had. And within this, I would like to focus on all the experience with Rotary Youth Exchange. And in that, I'd like to spend some time on the benefits it's had for me, the personal development I've been through, and the advantages of which I still experience from day to day. But also what we've all faced in the past 2 years, which is also one of the key focus areas of this conference, is what the impact of COVID has been, both on me, but also probably a bit more broad on society and the exchange program in specific. But that at a later stage. So a bit more about me. Here you see a bit of the journey I spent from 93 to about now. And on the top, you see a bit more about me on a personal level. And in the bottom, you see the experiences I've had through Rotary. So maybe, like I said, to start, so I was born in Roermond, in the Netherlands, in a family of 5. I was actually the youngest. So my sister, Lisanne, you see on the picture, is about 3 years older. And my brother, Joris, he's 5 years older. So I was always, as we say in Dutch, I always had a clear path laid out in front of me, and I never really had to make any battles for what I wanted, because I was the youngest, so I was being spoiled. So during my free time, I like to do 2 things a lot. One is not on the picture. It was gaming, playing video games. So I already grew up through a part of a digital economy and digital society, but it was not as developed as it is now. And the other part of me liked to play and to coach field hockey, for which you see one of the pictures when the youth team I coached became champions. I will tell you a bit more about that later, how the things I like to do, how that kind of changed after Rotary. And you also see a picture of me in 2011 when I graduated high school. And that was the moment when I started asking myself, what do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to go? And I've always had this dream to go and visit the United States. And because of the job my parents had, we never really were able to travel outside of Europe. So it was a big dream of me to go outside of Europe and discover the broader world. And part of me also wanted to improve my language skills and learn English in a better way. So my parents, they owned an own company. It was a small independent meal business, and they basically only had 2 free holidays every year. So if I wanted to go to the United States, this was truly something I had to organize and kind of achieve by myself. So this is when, through a friend, Rotary Youth Exchange came in the picture. And an important thing to note was that where my parents always said, this is something you want to do, so you put the effort in it, and you have to finance it yourself, which was, I think, definitely different from most people in the program, who actually had their parents organize many things for them. But that's already when my personal development, because of Rotary Youth Exchange, kind of started. It already started before it even began. So over the period 2011, 2012, I went to the United States. I went to a small town called Coolidge in Arizona. It had about 10,000 citizens, and it was a blend of different cultures: Hispanic, Caucasian American, Native American, and also African American, alongside some cultures who were represented to a lesser extent. I will tell a little bit more about that journey at a later stage. So after my exchange, I went to study in Tilburg. It's a bit more up north in the Netherlands, where I did a bachelor's in business economics, and on the side I did an honors program, which was really truly about the practical side of university, and also multidisciplinary in nature. So it was people from all kinds of studies. And throughout that period, I actually became the president of Rotex Netherlands. And I think to many of you, I won't have to explain what Rotex is and what it stands for. This was a period where I could continue the personal development that I kind of started during the exchange. So after my bachelor's and my time at Rotex Netherlands, I moved to Rotterdam, where I finalized my studies in financial economics. But before that, I kind of had to decide what I wanted to do with my life, where I thought my career aspirations would lie, and what I would like to do for job. And within this, actually another aspect of Rotary Youth Exchange came in the picture, because that's when I completed a New Generations Exchange in 2014, where I went to Assis in Brazil. And here from the experiences that I had in the US, where I became more independent, and where I was, I grew motivation in my time in Brazil, in Assis. I was able to experience a lot of different types of jobs, and I see a lot of different types of companies. But also I wanted to experience the feeling of relaxation. Because what I admire about the Brazilian culture is how they can truly live in the moment and not worry about everything what's around the moment. So after getting back from Brazil, I knew better that I thought a job in consulting was something I wanted to do. And in order to achieve that job in consulting, I thought it would be a good step to specialize in finance, where I could focus more on the analytical side of economics. During this master's, I participated in the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, where I could kind of pinpoint in a better way the journey I've been on since 2011. So over the past 4 years, I've been with much pleasure a strategy consultant at EY Parthenon. It's a global boutique within the broader Ernst & Young organization. Where I was able to see and look in the kitchen, as we would say, many different companies. And I think in the moment there's a lot of new developments in my life where I would like to touch on at a later stage as well. So if we would zoom in on the periods 2011-2012, I would always like to compare the Rotary Youth Exchange Program with a roller coaster. And a roller coaster, of course, in the positive sense of the word, because everybody who goes into a roller coaster does it because of the fun and experience they achieve from it. But in every roller coaster, you follow different stages. And this was the same with my youth exchange. So before entering, before my exchange, my emotion, you could describe it as curious, anxious, and very eager for the experience. But I didn't know what to expect. So as soon as I got into the cart at point B, when you could start going up the slope, when you're actually in the flight and you buckle your seatbelt and you're locked and you can't go back. That's when the feeling and the emotion of uncertainty hits you. You're still eager for the experience, but now you really don't know what's happening and you cannot go back. You said bye to your family, which is actually one of the most difficult parts of your exchange. So when you enter in point C, when you're on top of the roller coaster, you have your first impressions and you actually landed and you entered the country. And that's when the feeling and the emotion of being scared and afraid hits me. I was on top of that roller coaster and it was high, but I still didn't know what to expect. And then you start going down with a tremendous level of speed. So many new impressions. About 1 to 2 months, you enter point D and you're on the bottom of the roller coaster, and that's when the feeling of being homesick hit me. But as you can also see from the graph on the chart, this was a very short period of time, and before you even know, you are being pulled into so many experiences, and you experience so many good things that the feeling and emotion of excitement and relaxation hits you in point E. You feel like you're on top of the world, and you're actually starting to plan your time to do the one best thing of your life after the other. That's also when you meet a lot of new friends, when you see a lot of things you've never seen before. And that's when you get to point F, and it's already towards the end, and time has flown by, and you still have that feeling of enthusiasm, but also at the same time you start to know that it's getting towards the end of your exchange, and you have to make decisions and you have to make priorities and what you can't do and what you can't do. And then at point G, it's the end of the year. It's when you start to go back and you're actually happy that you can see your family, friends from back home, but actually the feeling of satisfaction and appreciation is the one that's most on your mind. At the end, I was very happy and I grew as a person. So I think the things that I learned the most during the program was that before I had a lack of motivation. Most of my time I was actually playing video games, and I learned during the exchange how you, when you work hard and when you put effort into something, you can create opportunities, and from those opportunities you can learn, but you can also have the greatest experiences. So I took that as a life lesson, that if I would always work hard, then I would always create new opportunities and I would grow further as a person. So if I look back at the Rotary Youth Exchange, I think 3 things were key in making this such a learning-full experience. So I think the 3 things were that you actually are part of different host families, and then it's that you're not on your own, or that you don't stay to one family. At the same time, I think it's also very important that you fully immerse yourself in the experience, and that towards a limited extent, you connect back home, so you truly experience what life is on the other side of the world. And I think also the connections I made through Rotary were vital in creating these opportunities. So maybe to talk a little bit about the host families I've had. On the top left, you see the first host family I entered in, which the guy I was putting my hands on the shoulders was my host father. His name was Bob. And Bob, when I heard I was going to the United States, I only found out after a while that I was actually going into a host family of a single father who had lost his wife about half a year before I would land in the United States, and who was already 71. And his motivation for having an exchange student in his life was because he didn't want to be lonely. And over the 6 months that I lived with Bob, a very special connection was built between us, and he truly felt as a second father to me. Unfortunately, Bob passed away in 2014 because of an accident, and a brain tumor was found in his head. That was just before I was able to visit, to show the United States to my parents, because they were never able to visit me. So this was quite a difficult period. On the top right of the host families, you see Pat and Connie, who were actually Hispanic, who grew up in the United States, but still lived strongly through to the Mexican culture. And they were Catholic, and I was actually born and raised without religion. So it was a whole different experience for me when living with Pat and Connie to actually experience what church was like. And on the bottom, you see Magda and Ronan, who I lived with during my New Generations exchange in Brazil. And with them, I also lived or connected closely to their daughter and son. So very, very different types of families, a different setup, but also different values and different cultures. Who from each of one of them, I learned and grew as a person. So I think in the middle, full immersion is something that's difficult in a time as today. So back when I went to the United States, there was no WhatsApp. There was Skype, but it was not as common to Skype with big people back home. So I think about once every 3 weeks, I would speak to my family, and occasionally I would speak to one of my friends in the Netherlands. But most of the time, I was actually living in the moment in the United States, which enabled me to truly go onto a journey and meet a whole different set and connect with a different set of friends. And I think on the right-hand side, I think that I did a lot during my exchange. I actively went by many different Rotary clubs within the region to actually speak about my experience, to speak about the personal development, but also to demonstrate my gratitude to everything that I was experiencing. So I think in the end, the benefits of the program was foremost what I already mentioned, personal development. I think what I truly learned is to become self-managing and to learn to work from a certain structure. I now have a continuous drive to keep developing myself, but also to keep organizing and keep helping other people so that they can also become and grow towards being a better person. I think part of me also grew because I gained a lot more motivation and inspiration. So I basically went from gaming to traveling and experiencing what the world was like. And becoming a strategy consultant was, I think, something that I would have never been able to achieve without Rotary Youth Exchange. And then I think for me, in the end, when I look back, they're very important, but still feel somewhat secondary, is the language that I improved my English. Although I noticed that after a while of not speaking, the wish grows to go back to the United States to refresh that. And then also the culture. Often you think the United States and the Netherlands, they are not so far apart, but actually when you enter Arizona, you directly notice that culture is very different. And lastly, the lasting friendships and all the people across the world that I still connect with. So then, if we fast forward a bit in time. And we played back to March 2020. I was about 2.5 years a strategy consultant, and I was starting to become a bit bored because over the period 2011 to 2020, mostly 2018, every half year, something changed in my life. And then at that moment in 2020, it was about 2 years that not much had changed in my life. So I started to feel the urge to step outside my comfort zone again. And that was the moment when I organized some exchange through my work. So I was about to go to Mexico City for an ambassadorship within EY Parthenon to experience for 3 months what it was like to work in Mexico City. And a week before leaving, that was when COVID hit. So I already directly, as soon as it hit, experienced the negative part of it because I wasn't able to go to Mexico City. But now, 1.5 years later, if I look back, COVID-19 actually did a lot of good things in my life because it made clear to me what I actually find important and what my true values are. And so if I look back what I was able to achieve in the last 1.5 years, I actually have a girlfriend now. I'm living together with her in a house that we bought and we entered about 3 months ago. And I'm on the verge of changing jobs, where I will switch my consulting life, where I often struggled with a work-life balance that wasn't really balanced. And I will become a loyalty program developer at bol.com, which is actually the Dutch equivalent of Amazon, and market leader in online market in the Netherlands. So if I look at these three things, they might have not happened if COVID had not occurred, and they certainly would have not happened in the fast manner they have now. And of course, the negative aspects of COVID-19, where you have a smaller social circle, maybe a more diffused work-life balance, and of course, like I mentioned, the canceled trip to Mexico and the United States. I think the best way you can do is to highlight and zoom in on positive aspects of what had happened. So maybe if I look back and compare that to what changed in society and what might be the lasting impacts of COVID-19 going forward, I think the disruption that we've all experienced is temporary in most ways, which means that we can start planning a period post-COVID and to try to use the advantages and the altered or the changed priorities that we've seen, but also to nurture the things we've missed and to try to relive those. And I think very important aspect, which of course impacts the exchange program as well, is the accelerated shift to online, and correspondingly the hybrid way of doing things. An exchange will likely now be an integral part of doing things both online and offline, where back in 2011, 12, and probably even more so in the period before, it was purely offline. But if we all try to see and I'll try to take the advantages of being able to do things partly online as well, we can make the program even better. So I think there will be new possibilities to differentiate the program, which will likely also create or make the program accessible towards a larger pool of potential youth exchange candidates. And for that, we just have to cope with a greater degree of uncertainty and the risks there are. And let's hope we can all make and invest in the experience, so people are still able to immerse themselves in their new culture and their new environment. So this was my journey that I've shared over the past few years. And I would like to thank you all for the effort you put in the program and encourage you to keep putting that effort in.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your sharing. It's really amazing. I feel connected at some point because first we are at the same age and we also take the exchange. For you it's 1 year, for me it's 1 month, but we all have great experience. And here I have one question for you. I saw you have this roller coaster image for before exchange and during exchange. What about after exchange? Because I think for all the young students go abroad, there will be cultural shock. What about anti-cultural shock when you finish your exchange? How would you describe for these roller coaster goals?
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was definitely also a roller coaster coming back, but I think it was also a roller coaster for people that were close to me. Because I was doing things that I was never doing before, from simple things as cleaning in the house or doing my own laundry. So I think, yeah, definitely the time afterwards is just as much as a roller coaster as during your time abroad.
And how long does it take for you to ride on this roller coaster after you came back from US?
So I think that specific roller coaster was rather short, certainly shorter than the exchange, so maybe about 1 month or so. I mean, it's the environment you grew up in, so it's also really easy to get accustomed to once you return. But I think the new part is that you continuously enter into new roller coasters. And because of that experience that you've had, you're able to experience new heights.
Yes, I definitely feel what you say because I also went through this roller coaster as well. Yeah, thank you very much. And Guido, do you also have some other question for him?
Yeah, of course, Koen. I'm impressed by what you have done. You also went to the Ryla, I saw on the screen. What makes...
Correct.
Yeah. What have you done in Ryla?
So I've actually been twice.
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky few. So I went once in the United States, where we went to Flagstaff, which was up north in Arizona, and there we worked mostly on being confident with yourself and daring to step out of the comfort zone. And I think back in 2015, it's when I've done Rotary Youth Leadership Awards in the Netherlands. There we mostly worked on how you can look back at your personal development and set new goals towards what you want to achieve kind of in the next phase.
Yeah. So the program of Ryla is really connected with youth exchange also. Looking to yourself.
For me, it definitely was. Yes.
Yeah. Great to hear that. Yeah. And now you're 28. How you get involved in Rotary? Or you say that's from the past, or do you have some activities?
I wouldn't say it's from the past, but I would say it's on a pause now. So if I look back at the past 4 years, it was definitely a roller coaster again. So as a strategy consultant, I think there is limited room to combine it with other things in your life, and there you really have to make priorities and focus your time to also manage yourself.
Yeah.
So I think the last 4 years were characterized that I really focused on my career and the development in that. And now, when switching jobs and moving houses, I can slowly, enter a new phase in my life and look maybe how Rotary can play a role into that.
Yeah. I was involved in Rotary Act, also part of Rotary. And when I moved to Limburg, the province where you are born, Of course, I knocked on the door of Rotary. I opened the door and I said, wait for 10, 20 years to come back. And I will get involved. So I was 40. But after all, I see now there's an opportunity also for people from the 30 to come into Rotary, because they have quite good ideas. Also to improve the program, and for the older people also to get connected. Also to another age. So connected international, but also when we are in our own country, in our own club, I think it's really important to get connected with other ages. Yeah. How did your friends react on your experience?
I think to a very positive extent. I think they had all seen what it had done to me.
Yeah.
And of course, the closest friends also like to make jokes about it, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
And my parents, but also my brother family, they were really proud on looking what I'd been to, and they were happy for me because of that.
Yeah.
But also very proud on the person I've become.